Hello, Pia.
Hello.
You're a philosophical practitioner in Helsinki, in Finland.
Yes.
And you do both work with groups and with individuals.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about your work with groups. When you have a philosophical group, what are the basic ideas or the basic principles or methods that you use?
First, I like to say that in generally, my idea about the Socratic dialogue and the philosophical counseling in generally is, I think it's pretty much coming from Stoic ideas. And the question, what is a good life? And I always wonder that, why this is so problematic. And even that the questions, made aloud in the ancient Greek philosophers, but it's still, very relevant and acute, maybe more than ever in history if we are looking around the people and their lives and so on. And maybe, this question about the good life, it's one of my big principles for the group of the people when I'm working with them with Socratic dialogue, because I think and I believe that mainly the people, when they want to participate in a group and talking each others, they have some kind of idea that maybe this conversation helped to my life, maybe it's open a new windows inside of myself, maybe it's helped to me to learn to know myself better, or maybe I can just learn about the skills to conversation with the others or something like that. Maybe that's something I think the main principle.
Okay, so this is more or less the content, the topic. How do you organize the group so that it would work with this issue?
Okay, in the practical way, there is different kind of things how to collect people together. And I have keeping Socratic dialogue groups in monastery in East Finland, because there is the very famous monastery, and they have inside of the monastery is a college which organize courses. So 2 years ago we started to keeping the Socratic dialogue courses, and we decided that the main theme is virtues, that how the virtues help people to make a better life or something like that, and should we practice virtues. But also there is some other practical way to collect people. And generally when people coming together and participate the group, I usually explain them very easily how we're gonna working together, how we're gonna doing this conversation together. And I think me and many of my colleagues in Finland who is doing this kind of group conversations, we usually use this kind of time class model or pattern or whatever is it. It's meaning that the first we're gonna choose the theme, what we're gonna talking together, and there is different ways how to choose this theme. It could be something that the facilitator, like me, pick up usually the 3 topics, like a virtues, like a courage, friendship, love, whatever is it. And then we vote between these. Okay, it could be also some topic which coming up from the daily newspaper. It could be the topic from the small philosophical text. There is many different ways how to construct the idea to talking.
And what is the procedure? Is there a structure to the discussion?
Yes, I do it a little bit, but I used to be very quiet as a facilitator. I usually organize the start, how we voting the team, what we're gonna talking, and after that I'm a little bit going back and I give a lot of space for the group to start to make a conversation. Usually it's funny that when people used to know my style to do it, that if I'm sometimes more active than usually, they usually give me feedback, afterwards that, oh, you talk it too much. You should be more quiet, that we can manage this talking or something like that. But yeah, usually I'm doing something like that. I'm usually doing the few questions. Example, if I find out that the conversation it's like a sticking and not going forward, then I usually make some comments or give a new point to the conversation. And sometimes I use also some critical comments that that can you thinking this from the totally opposite perspectives, something like that.
So if I understand you correctly, the structure of the conversation is quite open.
It's quite
and you're
open.
Creating like a space.
Yes.
And you may make a comment here and there, but
right.
It's the participants themselves who carry on the conversation.
Yes, something like that.
And so your role is to make a little comment here, a little comment there. What is a successful meeting? Let's say that you finish the meeting after 2 hours, maybe?
Usually we take about at least 3 hours.
3 hours?
Yeah.
3 hours. For 3 hours, the people talk with each other about, let us say, as an example, virtues. Okay. Well, what is a good conversation that you finish it and say, oh, today was a good one?
When people coming to the conversation, they usually have a strong opinion about the theme, or they have images or these kind of things. And I think the best conversation or dialogue has happened when they change their mind, even a little bit. That when we are ending, they say that, okay, I'm not so sure anything about this, my ideas or my thoughts now, if I compare the situation when we started the conversation. And I think it's something like that when your thought is moving a little bit like out of the position, it's maybe the good conversation.
Do you use material from philosophy, perhaps a text or an idea? Okay.
Yes, I do. I do sometimes. I use some small text from the philosophers, and I use also a little bit art, because I have my art background, so it's easily and familiar to me to use a little bit the art. Example, I have used poems, and it's working. It's really working, that people say that I don't understand anything about poems, but suddenly inside a conversation when they're reading, some poems, usually I choose the poems which is the same theme, or something like that. But the poems are so philosophical, so probably, when their mind is open for the conversation, they can read the poems in differently way. And usually they fix it, ideas together there. It's used, I know that it's good idea to using some, the photos or pictures or something like that also. Yeah.
Are there rules of conversation when, let's say, they look at the poem?
Yeah, usually I think, it's usually the group is, they like a ventilation about how much people are talking, and they try to keep, the democracy that, okay, everybody needs to talking the same way. But of course, it's the group of the people. Sometimes, some people talking more than the others, and some people are a little bit, the shy to open their minds or give the opinions, and yeah. And of course, naturally, is it happen that someone is just talking about the 20 minutes and everybody is like, Of course, it's my task to make some intervention.
Tell us, if you can, about some example of a group discussion that you had recently that was interesting. Something interesting happened.
There was the one old man who came to my Socratic dialogue group. It was the weekend course from Friday to Sunday, and we used the same theme through of the course. And the beginning of this dialogue, he was against everything. He was very, very critical, no, I don't accept this, and how you say like this, and can you be a little bit quiet there? He make all the time some kind of, these elements, and I thought myself that, oh, what I can do, the move him a little bit, the relax and, the open and so on. But actually, I didn't hardly nothing for that. I was just, in the present with him. And suddenly he was a man in Sunday who was almost crying and hugging when we stopped it. And he said, "Oh, is this finished now? I started warm up for this conversation. I want to go on. And oh, it's so sad to leaving the group." So something is happening in his mind. I don't know what, but something is happening.
Interesting. One last question. Can you tell us a little bit about who those people usually are that come to your workshop?
I think at the moment in Finland, all the philosophical conversation, I don't know, is it correct to say that it's a little bit like the intellectual hobby, but it's because it's not, the right picture. But the reasons why I use this word is that we are a little bit follow about these kind of things, that people going to the crisis centers to make the dialogues, or to the jail, or the canceling people, or whatever, that usually the people who participate the groups or using philosophical counseling in Finland are, I think, the normal people who is the working or studying or everything like that. And the age limit is huge. I mean, the youngest what I have was the 15 years old, and the older is about over 70 years old. I think the normal Finnish people who is just, the one to development themselves or something like that.
That sounds great. Well, thank you very much, Pia.
Thank you very much for you.